So welcome to another episode of Going Direct. We're really excited today. We have with us State Rank and File Peter Bochter.
Good morning.
And he's going to be talking with the team from Ready Rebound. We have Luis Rivera, the founder.
Nice to meet you.
And Eric Earhart, the Strategic Customer Success Manager.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I know a lot of our members, this is was rolled out about 6-7 months ago as a partnership with the department. And it's essentially like a concierge medicine if you get hurt, in a way.
Correct.
So I would love for you to kind of tell us, how did this idea come to be, and how was the design process of the program?
Yeah, no. So thanks for having us again. We really appreciate it and have enjoyed our time working with local and with CAL FIRE as well. But I am Luis Rivera, and I'm the founder of Ready Rebound. So I think some historical context is always important. By training, I'm actually a physical therapist and an athletic trainer. I went to undergrad and grad school at Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and spent 9 years working in Phoenix, Arizona, where I worked at a clinic that specialized in Major League Baseball rehab for 4 years. And then for 5 years, I was the rehab director at Arizona State University. So my background is really heavy in sports medicine, but what most people don't realize is sports medicine at the professional level is workers' compensation, right? So if you play for the Anaheim Angels organization and you get injured, you have to abide by California state law. If you play for the Seattle Mariners, you have to abide by labor and industry, which is Washington state-funded work comp program. So for the first 9 years of my career, what looked like sports medicine to myself and to everyone on the outside world actually was workers' compensation. I had the chance to move back to Milwaukee. I'm actually a Chicago native, but I had the chance to move back to Milwaukee in 2010 and reconnected with an old friend of mine who had become the health and safety officer for the city of Milwaukee's fire department. And he and our chief medical officer at the time, Dr. Robert Adlam, had come to me and said, "Hey, Luis, out of curiosity, why is it in Major League Baseball someone could get hurt on January 1st and you guys have them back out throwing a ball in June or July? And we have firefighters tear their rotator cuff on January 1st, and it takes our guys 18 months sometimes to get back on the job. Why is it taking our folks so much longer to get back to work?" And what we found that was really interesting to me was that it was a couple pieces of the process, and it was things that we were inherently doing in professional sports that weren't being done at this level. Things like access. So in Milwaukee at the time, firefighter would get injured, they go to the ER or an urgent care clinic, they go to their primary care clinic, they'd come to a physical therapy clinic for 12 weeks and not really have a true diagnosis yet. And by the time the injury didn't really fully recover and they got referred out and MRI taken and seeing an orthopedic surgeon, they were 16, 18, 20 weeks into a process. Whereas in pro sports, if you look at, the Ravens and Detroit game on Monday night, player goes down, orthopedic surgeon, athletic trainer run on the field. Decisions are being made in moments because the coach has to make real-time decisions, right? They have to decide, are they, if the sports medicine team says, are they done for the play? Are they done for the series? Are they done for the half? Are they done for the game? Are they done for the season? Or are they done for their career, right? That's the process that it goes through. But those decisions are made within 24, 48, 72 hours often, right? Well, in firefighting, that wasn't being done that way, but the impact was similar. And this is where Chief Mark Rolfing, who's now retired from the City of Milwaukee Fire Department, had come to me and said, "Luis, the same thing exists for us here." And I said, "Well, explain more." And he's like, "Well, we have this thing called minimum staffing requirements. So we have a minimum number of firefighters that we have to have on shift. And when we don't have enough of those folks, we have to backfill them. And that costs me time and a half to the tune of $1,100 a shift sometimes. And so if you're even able to save me a week of time, you're saving me $2,200 a week in overtime. And that's real money I can deploy to other resources like peer support, annual physicals, other things like that. So if you can save me a week, that's just real money back into the coffers of the city of Milwaukee." So that's really kind of the inception of the program and how it all started. Today, we sit in Eric, correct me if I'm wrong.
21.
21 states, and have almost 400 municipal agencies we work with. CAL FIRE is the largest of those agencies, though.
Very cool.
So historically, our union has gone down this road to try to facilitate a work comp carve out. And it was brought to the union, I want to say 13, 14 years ago, trying to create a carve out for work comp in the state of California. And it became very complicated to go down that road with the work comp carve out. And when I was elected to this position, knowing that this was discussions in our history, I brought it back in to have another conversation at this present time. This was probably about 2 years ago. So I got basically all the attorneys and the players in the room, and we had a meeting regarding what would a carve out look like for work comp again. And it essentially was complicated in today's time. So a little background, I met Louise, I believe it was at the IAFF convention in Boston.
Correct.
And we had a discussion. Unbeknownst to me, the department had sent a chief, and I forget the gentleman's name, but you guys had conversation tying the department, CAL FIRE, with you and your
Correct.
Ready Rebound, having discussions to come out and obviously facilitate your company and the needs of CAL FIRE and the injuries that our men and women are receiving to streamline that process and getting them back to work. And then for me, our shop, I was noticed about Ready Rebound from the department to basically create this as a test pilot for 2 years. So we had our meet and confer. We went through the processes that I'm obligated to have for our members, protections at the end of the day. But I'll let you just kind of dive in on where that was back then to where we're at today.
Yeah, when we got initially introduced, one of my teammates, Tim Sharpie, who's an employee that's been with me for a long time, one of my business partners now, he was a former cop in a city just outside of Milwaukee, and we had been reached out to by more of your prevention part of CAL FIRE, so the arm that handles your annual physicals and looking at mental health and those pieces of it. So we had flown out and met with them, and they were asking us about what we're seeing around the country, what other departments are doing, and it was just a casual conversation. It wasn't a presentation or anything. But they wanted to know what Ready Rebound does and did at the time, but it didn't live in their world. And fast forward to this moment in time that you're referring to, they were actually in an executive level meeting with several of the board at CAL FIRE, and the work comp folks that we're working with, Randy and Gina over on the work comp side of the house, had raised their hand and said, listen, we're really struggling with this problem, and here's the problem statement. Does anyone know of anything that could help us? Well, your fitness folks were in the room, and they're like, we've actually bumped into this company a couple years ago. I don't know if they're still around or what they're doing, but I could put you in contact with them. So they reached out to us, and we told them what we were up to, and they were like, this is amazing. Are you guys in California? And I said, no. And they said, why not? And I said, because it's California, right? I knew, we've been doing this now for 15 years. We specifically avoided California because of all the things you're explaining today, right? But when the problem gets that severe, as you guys are experiencing, there comes this tipping point, right, where you kind of are like, what else is there? Is there anything? We'll try anything at this point because the system is so bad. So we said, listen, as long as you're willing to work with us, we'll solve the problem, but you have to work with us and let us learn and let us, get under the hood and see what's going on. And that's really what we've spent the first 7 months doing, is treating and running some of your folks through the process, seeing where the friction points are, and now we're coming back and saying, okay, we have a better vision of what actually is occurring, what all the components are, because it's not one component, right? We say work comp, but you're talking about 16, 17, 18 components of the system that have to work together for the car to move fast, right? And you and I both know, as with a car, if one part's not moving, the car's not moving, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you guys are experiencing today.
Yep. So to this point, by design, I requested, a lot of individuals, members, to come into this meeting that have experienced injuries, and I wanted them to share their stories of the work comp debacle, in my opinion. So they were able to, be at the table at my meet and confer, and the department in Ready Rebound was able to essentially hear the woes of our members. So that was by design. I had several people that have experienced the nightmares that we experienced for the work comp, component, and which I'm excited to hear. It has been successful for our members that have been using it, but we need to get the word out, because I think it's a component that hasn't been shared as well as it should have been. But we're here today trying to obviously get that message out. Basically, what Ready Rebound Louise and his company created was from cradle to grave, the basically getting our people fixed and back to work. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We just want to get back to work.
Absolutely. And Eric, do you want to talk about kind of the process that we use? I can talk a little bit more about the provider selection, but we can talk about how it all works together.
Yeah, so I think kind of where you guys left off, so once the agreement was in place and we started working with the state and state fund, we spent a lot of time really digging in and understanding what the current workflow processes are so we can integrate with that system and provide that support. We went live with the service back in March. And so today, if a member is injured, they have that option at that point to call Ready Rebound, right? So once you get injured, you get that claim filed, you get your claim number, pick up the phone and call Ready Rebound. And then that's how we're able to really start expediting that process and remove some of those wait times, provide that advocacy for you, because as you know, if you've been through the system before, communications can be very challenging. The folks that we're working with, they're very busy, right? It's just the nature of the business. When we look at work comp, it's, like Louise said, 16, 18 different pieces of the puzzle here you got to put together. A lot of times they don't have that capacity to have that constant communication and roll out. So we make sure that you guys see that your members feel that they can pick up the phone and call, text anytime. If somebody's going to answer that phone, it doesn't matter if it's 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon or 2 o'clock Saturday morning, somebody's going to answer that phone. So you get that claim number as soon as that injury happens, reach out to Ready Rebound, and we can start helping walk you through that process and making sure we're facilitating all those appointments. And when it's time to come see that specialist or time for that surgery, we connect you with the best of those providers. And I'll let Louise talk about how we select those. But we connect you, and you're not waiting 60, 90 days or even 4 or 5 months for those appointments. We've got some great success stories here with some of your members already where, from the time it was authorized to the time they actually got into surgery, 4 days for one of them. Another one was, within, I think it was like 28 days, but that was because he wasn't able to accommodate in his own schedule, right? We could get them in faster to the providers than they can accommodate in their own schedule sometimes. So that's really kind of how we are able to streamline that process. But the big thing is, if they have one of those injuries that you would see an orthopedic for, or a hernia or a concussion, pick up the phone, give us a call, and we'll start helping you get through that process. Because I know I've been through it myself. It's very frustrating. It's frightening. You don't know what's happening with your career. You don't know when you're going back to work. You don't know if you're going back to work.
Absolutely. Can you guys describe the injuries that you guys come across in the treatment, from, muscle to broken limbs to cardiac? What do you guys, sorry for the tapping.
No.
What do you guys encompass with Ready Rebound as far as the types of injuries from, like I said, skeletal to cardiac to, vascular and all that stuff? Yeah.
So when I started the company, being a physical therapist and an athletic trainer, I started working with musculoskeletal because that's what I knew, right? So what that looks like is rotator cuff, elbow, foot and ankle, knee, back injuries. But as with sports medicine, that morphed over time. So I started seeing or hearing phone calls come across that were hernias, right? Guys that had neck pain, but that when you started asking them more questions, you find out that they were hit with a beam, during an overhaul, and have actually a concussion with neck issues that sound like shoulder, but maybe now are actually concussion and neck. So on our team, the people that are actually answering these phone calls are licensed athletic trainers. So we actually have clinicians, not just, we're not a call center, right? We're not farming out the actual person on the phone. These are Ready Rebound employees that have spent 5 years or more covering the sidelines of professional sports or the NCAA or the PGA Tour, right? They've done this in their career, and they've decided to join us to help first responders, right? So it's our folks answering the phone 24/7, 365, because that's when you guys work. So if you're hurt at 3 o'clock in the morning, you call that 1-800 number, you have a licensed athletic trainer on the other end. Now, we're not getting you in to see an orthopedic surgeon at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? But it gives the member that peace of mind that they actually have a skilled clinician talking to them, and really can talk them off the ledge at a certain point to say, I don't need to rush and figure it out right now. I can see an orthopedic surgeon tomorrow morning and get that process going, as long as we fill out the paperwork, right? So as Eric alluded to, a lot of it is understanding for us, those first couple months when we go live, is really understanding the ins and outs of your process, so that when you do call Ready Rebound, we're going to ask your member a series of questions to make sure they click all those boxes, and that they don't miss one of those, which then leads to a potentially denied claim or something because they missed one box in the process, right?
Yeah.
So that's all part of this advocacy and the concierge part of the work that we do. That's that front end of it.
Outstanding.
On the provider side of it, I think what's important to know too, so the goal of the program is to have, on the provider side, meaning physical therapists and orthopedic surgeons that we work with around the country, to have the best of the best, as Eric said, in our program, right? What we have to do, though, in states like California and Washington specifically, we have to actually take your medical provider network that's established by your third party, which is state fund here in California, and we take that list of, let's say, 600 providers, and we whittle it down, right? So we're not going outside of the network, which is always kind of a fear I feel like our friends in HR and risk have, is they say, well, we have our network, and it's, this is what we want to stay within. We stay within your network, but we curate that list to make it feel more like a sports medicine program. A lot of the sports medicine doctors that we like to work with nationally actually also see work comp. Obviously, they have to if they want to see the work with the Angels, yes, or the Dodgers or the Giants or whoever, right?
Yeah.
So they have to be part of that. But we have to comb through it and find out who is and who isn't, who might want to be. Sometimes the doctors say, listen, Luis, like, the fee schedule is not good here in California. We have so much paperwork and it takes so much time, and why would we want to be part of it? And we have to recruit them sometimes to join our mission of what we're trying to accomplish here. And that conversation oftentimes looks like, listen, doc, while you sleep soundly at night, these are the men and women that are protecting your streets. What we're asking is that the same way you work with your pro teams or your big high schools in the area, and you work to get the football running back in on Saturday morning because you need to find out if they're torn or not, we want that same access, but for your local community, your first responders. Are you willing to do that? And when we say it that way, they're like, of course, like, why would I not? And we're like, great, we now need you to become part of this mission, and in order to do that, you might have to take the fee schedule. And we know the fee schedule is not great, and we know the paperwork's a pain in the butt, but the mission's bigger than that. And they get behind that. They rally behind that, right? So our provider network nationally, I think we have almost 3,000 doctors and physical therapists now because we're in 21 states. 3,000 providers across the country that are behind our mission now, right?
Yeah, I think you figured it out. You're pulling on the heartstrings, right? And comparing us to professional athletes, I honestly compare our men and women as professional athletes for a course of 30 years.
Correct.
Where these individuals playing sports do it for maybe 10, 12 seasons. Our men and women are doing it for 30 plus years, putting a breather on, going to structure fires, wildland component, all those components that we deal with day in and day out, right? You guys figured it out. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think it's extremely important to understand again, back to the cradle to grave, you did a phenomenal job of figuring that complexity out, and now obviously putting a product out there that is proven, not only in other states, but this complicated state in California.
Correct.
So it's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. We have to remember is, this work comp system that we all have to work within, it was designed for the masses, right? It was designed for you, me, the firefighters, the police officers, and where if you or I were at a point in our careers where if I tear my meniscus, I can still come to work today, right? But the firefighters, they can't, okay, right? So we have to start treating them differently. And same thing, I was in public service for 24 years and spent a lot of time in law enforcement. And that was one of the conversations we always had was we need to be treated like athletes. The injuries are the same. We need to start doing it. So, I came across Ready Rebound just over 8-9 months ago, and I was absolutely just amazed at what they were doing. And so that's obviously why I'm here today, to make that part of my own personal mission as well. But we really have figured out how to work within the system, how to enhance that overall system of care, because there are gaps, right? No matter how good your adjuster is, no matter how good your risk manager is, within that system that we have in place today, there are gaps, and that's where we're able to step in and fill some of those gaps and really, improve that experience for the members.
Yeah.
And then I also kind of want to maybe clarify, this is free to our members. So it's not like they're calling you and then they're going to get a bill from Ready Rebound, correct? It's like
Correct.
this is a benefit to being in CAL FIRE.
Yeah, and not only the members. So one thing we haven't talked about yet today is just like anything else, when I founded the company back in 2010, there's been evolution, right, that occurs. And one of those evolutionary points occurred when I had a firefighter in one of our cities outside of Milwaukee call me and say, hey, my daughter got hurt. She's a gymnast this weekend, and she's competitive. She's got scholarship offers, and she's got to meet next Saturday. I can't get her in to see anyone. Can you help her out? And so we got her seen, she got cleared, and a week later I got a phone call from the fire chief there, and he was like, hey, Luis, this is awesome. We appreciate you doing this for our members. How much extra is this going to cost me? And I was like, wow, I can't believe that's the first thought was like, this is going to cost us extra. So we made a commitment as a company to expand and offer our services free of cost. We don't charge anything extra. We don't bake it into our cost algorithm, but we offer the service for on-duty injuries, off-duty injuries, family members, and retirees, right? So because of that, to your cradle to the grave comment, right, we have firefighters that, come in as cadets or recruits, 17, 18 years old. And I'll get them, some of those folks that came in at 17 and 18, the company's been around for 15 years now. We haven't even seen them retire yet, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of insane to think about, but you said it right. Like my baseball players, my NFL guys I've rehabbed over the years, right? They're in the league, the really good ones are in the league 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, but then they're done. We're going to have some of our folks for 30 plus years in the system. So we wanted to create a system in place that not only took care of them when they were 18 and 19, but throughout that whole lifespan, because things are going to change, right? You're going to have new experiences. There are going to be new things that pop up. But as you're aware with the Wellness Fitness Initiative, again, I said we started with musculoskeletal, concussion, and hernia. We're now in select markets starting to branch into oncology and cardiology, right? Presumptive law is allowing us to do some more things. We've got some amazing hospital partners in the Midwest and on the East Coast, like Northwestern University in Chicago, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and we're looking to do similar partnerships here in California so that we can get that same level of care and access and concierge treatment for not only the musculoskeletal things, but for these other ologies, I like to call them.
Outstanding. I support.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
want to just add on to what Luis said there. So it's on-duty injuries, off-duty, families, retirees, and it doesn't matter if that injury happens next week or if it happened 2 years ago. We're still here to help support you. So if you got that old nagging injury where, hey, I didn't like what the surgeon, they said I don't need surgery, I think I do, give us a call. We can help see if we can set you up with a second opinion, get you into one of our providers and take a look at that old injury. So again, it doesn't have to be a new injury. If it's something you've been dealing with for years, pick up the phone, give us a call. That's why I tell people, when in doubt, give us a call and we'll see what we can do for you. So yeah, it's available to all of those folks, and it doesn't matter when the injury occurred or when they retired. So if you got a list of retirees, share the information with them, make sure they get this information also, and they can call us anytime.
What a great benefit.
Seriously, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about if someone can they do something if they've already started the workers' comp process and they're kind of already in that, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe I should call Ready Rebound? Or is there kind of like once you've started one track, you can't go back?
Nope. In most states around the country, you can enter and exit our program at any point in time, right? So there's certain states that are employer-directed states where the employee doesn't have many decision rights in their process. California is not that. So you have the ability, if you're already in the process and have been dealing with an injury for, even pre-Ready Rebound starting, or you were unaware of us existing, and now you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, I want to opt in. You can just opt into the program, and because of our relationship with the work comp system at Cal Fire, we just integrate right in. So they already know we exist. They advocate for us often as well to let the members know that we exist. But again, Cal Fire is huge, right? So we're using this as a medium for us to get the message out there to as many members as we can, so they know they have this available to them, right?
I would say, if you're aware of Ready Rebound, call us sooner than later. I kind of, when I talk with folks, I remind them, think about the medical aid you go to. The sooner you get there, the better chances of recovery or survival are for that patient. It's the same with these MSK injuries. The sooner you can get to treatment or diagnosis and treatment, the better off your recovery is going to be. So then ultimately at the end of it, you're not being retired out because there was a delay in the system, right? Mm-hmm. You get to make that decision when you want to retire. You're not going to be pushed out of the system because there was a delay, right? We want to help you get through that process, get back to work, and get back to life faster as we get through this. So the sooner you call us, the better off you're going to be.
I'd like to bring up another component of concern, I think, when it comes to our people, our men and women, when they get injured. The work comp in this state is so complicated that they will resort to automatically going and getting an attorney. Mm-hmm. Just to feel that they're being advocated for at the end of the day. So I think with your company, Louise, not complicating their ability to get better and not have to feel to go to get an attorney, you're going to get fixed
correct
quickly and get back to work. So I just kind of wanted to discuss that a little bit as far as the legality of
correct
the mindset of our members. Or I have to get an attorney. I don't trust the state. I don't trust work comp, right? So I want to feel advocated. But your company basically comes in, hold on a second, let's get you fixed. Maybe we don't have to go down that legal route.
Yep.
And that ultimately, I think, complicates things for people downrange.
Yeah, I would say there are, obviously there are times where it's appropriate to have an attorney, right? 100%, but not every case needs an attorney, and it does slow down the process, as you said, because it limits who you can communicate to now at that point. Everything's going through your attorney to the adjuster, going through your attorney to the risk manager, right? So it slows those things down. So I would say call us, and then if you feel that there's a need, they're arguing over whether it's compensable or not, right? Maybe that's the point where you get the attorneys involved, whether they're going to accept the claim or not. But not every case needs an attorney. We're here to help advocate for you. Like I said, you will talk to your navigator on a regular basis. Once you open a case with Ready Rebound, they're going to be calling you, texting you after every single doctor's appointment you go to. We've had people say, hey, I was getting in my car and they called me, right? It's just that fast. They're checking in, how'd it go, what's next? And what we see is with some of our other customers is the longer we're with them, those number of claims that go to litigation actually reduce because the experience has changed so drastically.
We just ran the data actually. So, in the 390 cities we work with around the country, in year to date, we're under 1% of the cases we've touched have litigated at this point.
That's incredible.
Less than 1%.
That's incredible.
Which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
To actually see that data live and on paper is pretty amazing. But to Eric's point, sometimes they do need it, right? And because of our amazing relationship with the IAFF, we've had meetings with teams, and it's always contentious, right? People are like, well, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of Cal Fire, admin, or are you on our side on the union side of the house, on the local side? And I'm like, listen, we're on the side of the medicine. The medicine's going to tell us the story, right? If you fall through a roof and need a rotator cuff repair, and people saw you fall through the roof, It's kind of hard to argue against that, right?
100%.
Although I know that it happens, right?
Absolutely.
I've seen that too. But the medicine's going to drive it, right? So to Eric's point, getting seen quickly is going to give you the best opportunity. That's why orthopedic surgeons and athletic trainers stand on the sidelines. The sooner we can get to a diagnosis, a definitive diagnosis, what actually is wrong. Not like, oh, I looked at your shoulder, it kind of moves okay, let's try some physical. No, they would never do that in pro sports, right?
Yeah.
You're getting an image if the image is necessary. You're getting surgery if the surgery is necessary, right? And then you're moving on, right?
Of course.
Let's get a diagnosis, let's make a decision, and then let's go. Like, that's the speed at which we want to function at.
Yep.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, well, we've kind of answered all of our questions that we have. Is there any closing thing you want to add or push while we have you?
I think the biggest thing is, pick up that phone, call us, right? Again, if you're not sure if it's something we cover, pick up the phone, call us, we'll tell you, right? We've worked closely with the state, with the department, with State Fund to understand what the policies are and what the workflows are. So if there's a step that was missed, we'll tell you, hey, go back, file your claim, get your claim number, right? Because that's going to allow us to do the authorizations. We will help, we don't get into doing authorizations. We don't, direct medicine. We follow the medicine and we follow the authorizations. But what we can do is, because you guys have some of you have probably experienced this, where you go to the doctor, they ask for, you want to go see a specialist or go get an MRI, and it gets rejected or decertified is what they would call it. Is because there was a clerical error on the form. It wasn't on the right form, those types of things. Or if it's for surgery, maybe they're trying to facilitate a peer-to-peer review. We help with all those things. Me personally, I went through this before where I reached out to the adjuster and I found out, hey, do you have a list of back surgeons that take work comp? No, you're just going to have to go figure it out. We take that out of it. We do that for you. If something gets denied, we reach back out to the provider, say, hey, can you fill out this paperwork or put it on this form and resubmit it so we can get it. So we help facilitate that whole process. So you're not just waiting on somebody that's being reactive. We're being very proactive through that whole process. So again, that's with all of those little things put together and us working in conjunction with State Fund and the department, we're able to really expedite that recovery process for you. And again, like you said, you want to be on that truck, you want to be working. Those are the folks that call us. But more importantly, when we get to the end of that career, we want to be able to enjoy our life, right? We don't want to be living the rest of our life or retirement with these nagging pains and injuries that are just going to drag on. So again, it's that early intervention, that quick phone call to Ready Rebound to allow us to help you facilitate that and get you through the system.
No, I just personally, me speaking, throughout my career, 28 years now with the department, I've been injured. I worked injured because I didn't want to engage the work comp process. I just was afraid of it. Yep. I just dealt with my injuries. I didn't want to complicate not being able to work, and I still today suffer for some of that. That whether it was just me being a jackass at the end of the day, I don't know, but
no, it's complex, right? It's not an easy system, right? You have the municipality you're dealing with, you have a third-party administrator, you have the state, you have the union, you have the provider, and all of the things affiliated with the provider that look like imaging, which might not be part of that provider's office, physical therapy. And then they outsource things even within those things, right? So you're dealing with so many components that what we were hearing around the country is a lot of firefighters are like, listen, I just used my regular insurance. It wasn't even worth it for me to go through.
100%.
Right? And like that becomes a different issue, right?
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a huge organization like CAL FIRE, it's self-funded, right? So the money's coming out of the system regardless at this point. Yeah. What all I'm saying is let's just make sure we put it in the right buckets, right? Because if it is a work comp thing, you should treat it as such because there's different benefits that go with that versus if you run it through your major medical, right?
Of course.
So you have to be aware and conscious of that. And again, reporting it earlier, getting someone to take a look at it earlier, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But again, as long as you have someone, I hate to use the term hand holding, but that's a little bit of what it is, right? It's like, we've had people describe it as like, how, a mom might like say like, all right, get in the car, we're going to the doctor. Like, all right, now we're at the doctor, we're going to get your shot now. Like, we're just guiding that process along the way. Your mom's not hopefully not giving you the shot, right? but along those lines, like that's essentially what they experience and what they feel like when they do use our navigators. And as Eric alluded to, that navigator that you would get assigned, if Stephanie is your navigator, then Stephanie is your navigator. You text Stephanie, you email Stephanie, you call Stephanie, as does your family, right? So we've had several firefighters that are like, I used it, my wife used it, my kids used it, my neighbor used it, my grandma used it, right? So like that's what we're trying to do, is like branch out. And it's been that central navigator that they develop the relationship with, that they develop trust with. And now they just call Stephanie or they call Josh, right?
That's amazing. I'm very excited that this is happening, and just to kind of tie all this back to all the great things that our union is doing for our membership, not only just our union, but this has been a team effort with the department.
Correct.
This is leaps and bounds from what I've experienced in the course of my career. This is now taking it to another level of a benefit to help our people out at the end of the day. And so I commend CAL FIRE. I commend our local. I commend Rebound Ready for figuring it out, because we're in 2025 and we're finally down a path to get our people fixed, happy and healthy, to continue their careers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I can say undoubtedly, if I had a Ready Rebound in my corner when I went through all of my work-related injuries, I would still be in a uniform today, right? Because it just didn't happen for me, right? We didn't have that service available. So it is making an impact. And that's what's been really great for me being here this last 6 to 8 months, is seeing and hearing those success stories day after day and seeing it actually work, right? There's no magic behind the curtain or anything like that. It actually works. And so it really is amazing to see it. So
and I've had people reach out to me on a personal note saying, hey, I used them and it was amazing. Thank you, Peter. And I'm like, well, don't thank me. It's just a tool, I mean, just to,
no, but
to
thank you guys for
facilitate.
taking, I mean, it takes a leap, right? It takes a little bit of a leap of faith, because you're like, how is this guy from Milwaukee going to come to California and fix this like 75-year-old problem we're dealing with?
Yes.
And I come back and say, you kind of got to just trust me, right?
Yeah.
And you guys got to that point where you're like, I don't know what else to do. I guess we're going to try and trust Ready Rebound and Luis and his vision. And that's where we sit today. So I honestly appreciate you guys, and, the joint labor management, essence of this project has been super interesting and cool for me, because again, I'm a civilian, right? I didn't understand the sometimes wars that go on, between admin and the unions.
Yeah.
But here we sit in this really unique position where you guys are like, this is what our members need. And the city's like, this is actually could help us too. And we sit in this really unique seat. So I'm proud of the team and what we put together and kind of where we sit in the puzzle right now.
Yeah, no, Louise, you figured it out.
Thank you.
That's the simplest way I can put it. And I'm very proud to promote this to our members.
Thank you.
At the end of the day.
thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we'll be sure to link the website and link all the information in the episode. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank
Yep.
you.